Hello and welcome. Hope everyone is doing all good. It's been a couple of weeks, I think, since I did some form of gardening stuff that wasn't trellis related. So I bought some new plants over the last week or two. I haven't put them in yet, so we'll have a quick look at them and then have a quick spin around the garden and see what's going on with it, other than it being a complete mess. But there we go. You say mess, I say keeping it real. So yeah, here we go. So what should we do? Let's go from small to large. So on the right there is, you'll often see these, oh sorry, you'll often see these growing out of walls, stone walls. It's the Asplenium trichomanis or trichomanis. I don't actually see a lot. I see a lot of them in the wild, but I'm a bit remiss to sort of just pull them out of walls and things like that. I'd rather sort of pay the money and, keep people who do the, nursery people going, as it were. So that is going to go, we'll go and see it in a minute, but that'll go over in the seating area and the dry stone walling. The reason they grow in walls is because of the lime mortar. So I've got myself some of that. I'll face it up, put that in and see what happens. But we'll get over there in a minute. Next one I've got is just the standard Polystichum setiferum. So it's going to go sort of hopefully a bit lower and a wider fern rather than a big like upright one. We'll get to it in a bit, ones that are like it, but this looks like it's just a standard one. Which is going to go and be my weather protection for the smaller Cyathea couperii at the back of the garden, which we'll get to. So that's quite a nice fern. This next one here is a Polysticum braunii. You can just see, look at the picture there, it looks like it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And apparently it will get about 80 centimeters by 80 centimeters, and it's evergreen. Obviously you can't see too much of it yet because they've chopped it all off, but that I can find a space for that. We'll discuss that one. So just remember that that's the brownie eye is an evergreen one that gets up to 80 by 80. Next one along, I did sort of half show it the other day, is a lady, not lady fern, but an Ethereum ocanum. Now this is kind of like the painted ferns, the Ethereum niponicum, so it's got that kind of paley texture. But the thing about this one is, I don't know if it's really going to show up, but the mid ribs are red. So I think I need to find a place for that over that side of the garden, because it's got a kind of red theme going with the erythrosaurs and the the lepidopodobas or dopoda, or I can't remember what they're called, but yeah, I will work it out. So yeah, we'll find a place for that one. And then the last one, which looks absolutely fantastic already, and if we look at the picture, it looks like it's going to be a right beast. Apparently it get to something like, it could get to a meter by a meter, as in a meter high and a meter spread. Ignore that, that's just the cat climbing up. So yeah, that's similar to the brownie eye, is a big evergreen fern. So I need to find a place for that. So that's a Dryopteris aphaenus pinderi, or pindery. It looks like it's going to be quite an upright, sort of almost sword fern type one. So yeah, we'll find a spot for that. But I just saw that, I hadn't seen it before, and I just sort of thought, it's the thing is with that that's quite good is that it's an aphaenus, and as far as I'm aware from the research I've done, the Dryopteris aphaenus is one that will take full sun, as long as it's kept moist, and as I'm going to have an irrigation system going, that should be that, so that's good. So those are the new plants for now. I'm going a little bit steady on it. He says, having spent about 20-30 quid on plants, because obviously I want to get me Cyatheas get me next Cyathea quite soon. So that's scrap from a job. I can't get into my garage because that room's been plastered. I've just been painting it this week, so I just shoved everything in the garage, so I couldn't fit it in there after a job the other day, so it's out here for now. But put it this way, that copper tank, the 2 bags of copper and the bag of copper I've got in the garage will pay easily for my big Cyathea australis, and probably another Lophosauria if I can find one. So yeah, that's that. You may notice my rubble sacks stroke waterproofing thing on the chair, and this length of moss I've got, which is 3 meters, or not moss, I can't think what you call it now, but yeah, that stuff. the plan for that is for my next thing. Yeah, sorry. This is, I made a very, when it was really windy with that Cyatha, I made a very bad attempt at trying to stop the wind getting to it. That's by just putting those 2 chairs in front of it. So yeah, it's a bit messy, but yeah, like I said, keeping it real. So what the plan is, I've got those felt pockets over in that lot somewhere. What I'm going to do is that the rubble bags, which are highly waterproof, I'm going to wrap around the fence post. Then I'm going to wrap the to stop the water getting into the fence post from the irrigation that will drip down the pockets. Then I'll have that moss wrapped around the post to hold the moisture, and then the felt pockets will sit against that, if that makes sense. And then that should mean that as I'm watering them, because I did a little half rig last year, you can see that irrigation that's running along the fence this way. There's also one that runs up that fence post, we'll get to it in a minute, and there's a dripper at the top. And what I was doing is just, I had them all rigged up on that fence post last year. I was just checking the sort of mechanics of how it all works, because ideally what I want to do is do an irrigation drop into the top pocket, and then it dripped through all of the pockets, you know, going down. So I've worked out the mechanics of that. So I'm going to do my second rig on that in the next, well, week or two. It depends what I do with that trellis. So I'll have a quick look down here. The Jurassic Golds, they're starting to come up now. You can see the little tinge they've got to them, which is a kind of just off, like a mild terracotta-y to them. They'll really come up probably in a couple of weeks time, but they're all going nice, which is good. Over here, not too much going on. The Atrata is obviously going quite well. It seems to be pretty full. You can see the fronds are coming up. Can you see they're coming up like whip shaped? Just wait till we get to the one that is over there in where that big banana and that lot is. It looks fantastic. We'll get to that one in a minute. Got the little Polysticum congestion, which is just going to be a tightly packed fern there. Tracheospermum jasminoides I just got. I know these are quite, they take a while to get going, which is good, because what I'm going to do is get another one of these trellis panels and put it on this side of the fence posts. And then it just give it a nice big room with a bit of air in between it, so it doesn't all sort of, I don't know, I got the impression that if that all filled out both sides as it is, it might go a bit mouldy, or, you know, something like that. So yeah, and then over that we've got the Sertonium, the holly fern there in the back, which will just sit there nice. They do those for £3 for a tenner in B&Q, so I will grab them because they're evergreen. They're something a little bit different and can get quite, not big, but they get quite high, so that'll be good use out in the back. Haven't done my little whiteboard labels yet. So if we come over here, Fat cedera over in the corner, you can see where the frost browned it off, and I chopped it, and it's starting to grow out the next node down, as it were. So that looks like it's getting all right. I need to figure out what I'm doing with the trellis over here, but we'll get to that another time when I've tidied up. So just working our way across, we've got, so this is a place here, like if I try and just step back a little bit so we can see it, that Dixonia will obviously have green leaves. The Cyathias there, big leaves. We'll have a couple of ferns around here. So I need something evergreen and big at the back in between the Fat cedera and the Dixonia. So I'm thinking one of those two new ferns that I've got, either the Brownie Eye or the Aphenis pinderi. One of them in there, that should cover quite a nice bit of ground in the back of the fence. So I think that's the spot for that. In order to do that, I need to move these two ferns, which have only just started coming up. The one on the left is an Osmunda regalis royal fern. The one on the right is a Ethereum Felix Fermana, which is the lady fern. They're both deciduous, they both take full sun, so I will show you where they're going to go in a bit. Other than that, I haven't really pruned any of the tightly packed ferns yet, so that'll be something you'll notice as we go around the garden. I'm just gonna, they're all growing new fronds, I just need to cut all these old ones off, which I will do. Cyathea survived the 50-mile-an-hour winds, surprisingly. They're quite flexible. I mean, it was bending right over back on itself. Now the funny thing is with this actually is that at the moment, because that tree hasn't got any leaves on it, this is effectively in full sun and this is effectively full shade, and you've probably seen it already, but if you look at the coloration on that leaf compared to that leaf, there's a big difference there. Now I don't know whether that's the wind doing that, I don't know whether it's because it doesn't like full sun or any sun, or whether it's because these two leaves came out, these two fronds came out when it was indoors. I don't know if it's not adjusted, and when it throws out the new ones that will be adapted to proper sunlight, that they'll come out and they'll be all right. So we'll just leave that one for now. We can see the big frond is just about to come out there. I can't really get a good picture of it, but there's one there, there's one there, and there is one in there as well. They come out in a kind of spiral effect, so I'm really looking forward to that one getting going. This is another Setiferum, I can't remember which one it was. This is the Plumusum multiplum or something like that. It's just, you know, a Setiferum that's just a slightly different style. So I'm hoping that's going to sort of cascade around all this area, because we've got the Dryopteryx wallichiana, which isn't doing anything yet. And the tiny Dixonia, which was only a plant last year, but it's quite interesting because if I move a few of these leaves out of the way, it's actually like grown a trunk outwards, if you see what I mean. So that's quite good, and it survived, which is even better. I wasn't expecting it to survive, so that's good. And warning, blast from the past warning, we've got a frond on the Ethereum nipponicum, one of the Japanese painted ferns there. There's another one under the Fatsia over there, so hopefully that'll prop its head up. But that looks to have survived, even though it's been treated pretty poorly. The Dixonia, you may have heard my little rant, or probably not on these, but what I did after I removed the straw in January, when it got that little mould bit, I just started putting leaves in it. You can see that there's some in there, and when I cleared it out to check that the knuckles weren't dead the other day, I pulled it out and it was like soil in there, and there was like loads of worms and stuff in the top of it, and I was thinking, oh god, the crown's rotted and stuff like that, but it's not. And it got me to thinking about these actually, because the way they sort of, you know, this is obviously not great because the fronds are all burnt off, or whatever you want to call it, but essentially they kind of, you know how the Dixonias go, they kind of create a kind of funnel. Now that's not going to be for rain, is it? Because the leaves would be kind of like the Fatsia if they were pointed into each other and thick like the Fatsia, then yeah, you'd say that's to collect rain and put it into the crown, but it's got to be for collecting leaves. And I'm just wondering if that's the actual, rather than the leaves just rotting down and feeding it, I'm wondering if it's the worms and animals work their way into the leaves, and it's like the excrement from the worms that actually fertilizes the Dixonia, if you like. I don't know, I could be way off here, but yeah, that was just a thought I had. So I'm just going to keep chucking leaves in it, and you know, all year pretty much, just because obviously here with the deciduous trees they just dump it all in one go, but where these are from in the rainforests, it's not that the trees are evergreen and keep their leaves, they just dump them, but they do, like, you know, one a day rather than all in one go on a couple of weeks sort of thing. So yeah, I'm just going to keep adding to that and see how it goes. It looks okay. One thing I was thinking though is because these are all snapped and they've got no weight to them, if we look at, like, say this one for example, it's like pulled itself over, so I was thinking maybe I might tie a bit of string to it with a bit of weight on to pull them out so that it opens up the crown, because I don't want it sort of going a bit shorter. But yeah, I don't know if it's worth it or not. I guess we'll find out when the new ones come out. So Fatsia's doing good, it's just spat out an oodaloo leaves here, so that's good. I'm happy with that. A few of them are getting munched, but I don't mind that because, it's, you know, I look at them as sacrificial. You know, if that leaf is particularly easy for stuff to munch, then I'd rather it just keep eating that leaf than start on a new one, if you see what I mean. But these are looking really good. Fatsias, obviously, as most people know, are pretty tough. Another tightly packed fern that I need to you know, prune or chop, if you like, is the Polypodium vulgar, common polypody. This is another Dryopteryx atrata. You can see the fronds as they unfurl looking pretty good. This thing looks like it's going to come right out, and look at the size of those beasts there. absolutely massive. And this thing's got 2 crowns on it now, so next in the winter I'm gonna have a go at dividing that. This area here, because these 2 ferns are going to overspill quite a lot, the Herrenhausen on the right there, the Setiferum and the Atrata are going to overspill. That's where I'm going to put the big Australis, although I was thinking that if the Couperii doesn't like the full sun with the next couple of fronds, I'm going to put that in there, and the big Australis I'll put there and see how that does. But again, we could get the same effect. One thing that's kind of still on my mind is this fig tree. Now it's starting to grow, so I need to make a decision on it. My decision is, do I leave it there and possibly the roots go mental and take away from everything else, bearing in mind that I'm going to get another Dixonia that size. I might even get something like a Scarosa or a Fibrosa and just put it to the left of that Polyblepharum, kind of just to the right of the fig tree. So I need to decide whether I'm going to leave that there and that be that and it grow up over there and I'll train it up high, or do I dig it out, put it in a pot and shove it in the corner over there for now, and then maybe whack it out the front or something like that. So something to think about there. This Polysticum polyblepharum, or the tassel fern, really popping now. This is the time of year for this thing. I don't think the camera's doing it justice to just how much that looks out of place there compared to all the dark green stuff. And funny enough, I was sat over on the patio the other night having a drink, and it looked like it was kind of like neon glow in the dark, and I came over to take a photo, and then when I came over here I suddenly worked out that it wasn't glow in the dark. It was the fact that the floodlight, which is over there above the kitchen window, was shining through this part and it was going across there, so when I stepped across it all went dark again. But it did look really good. So yeah, there we go. We've got the Pilostagia at the back there, Verbanoides, which is seems to be doing okay. They're quite slow grower, which is why I've got so much time before I need to do anything up there. A few Aspleniums that need tidying up there, the heart's tongue ferns. The Setiferum's going mental. You can see it's extending out real big things there, which is perfect. So this is where the other Setiferum, I've got the smaller Couperii there, which has definitely seen better days, but it's had a bit of a rough life, this one. It's been in the ground a couple of times, been moved a couple of times, been in full sun, been in the house, been in the garage, no natural light, bright light, blah 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 blah. So you can see the new frond that it's just kicked out there going up the fence. That looks nice and lime green. So it's got a few more due to come up. I don't know if we'll see them. It's got a few more due to come up there, so I'll probably just leave that and see what happens with that. But the idea is that this set, once these grow up a bit and these leaves are a bit, these fronds are a bit bigger, the Setiferum will go over the crown of it, and then if I put another Setiferum to the right of it, that will do the same and sort of give it a bit of protection in winter. Of course, I'm going to have my oversoil heating around it as well, so it shouldn't get frosted, but yeah, we'll see how it does. So confirmation that this thing is a Matichua Stupthiopteryx, or the ostrich feather fern, or ostrich tail fern, whichever way you want to look at it. This thing, I'm going to move it, but I didn't realise they were quite so good spreaders, because there's a bit of it just there, there's another bit of it just there. So I'm going to move this over into what I'm going to call my deciduous bed, which is over in that bit for now, and put that Setiferum in here, and then that should give a bit of protection. I don't think the Schefflera will need it too much, but definitely the Couperii I might do. Speaking of the Schefflera, this is a Taiwaniana. Leaves are all still good on it. Got a grow point ready to go. Happy days with that, because that was a big risk putting that in when I did last year. Here's another Pilostagia verbanoides, which is a climbing hydrangea. You can see we've got these grow points coming out now. One there, one there, one there. So I should probably chop these old flowers off. But I really like this, the coloration of the leaves. It's the sort of yellow tinge you sort of get here and there, and then the deep green and mid-ribs. Yeah, if this thing goes really bushy and really leafy, I'm going to be so happy, because it looks fantastic, and I've not even seen what the flowers are like on this yet. I take it they're just, you know, kind of like that but alive. So yeah, there we go. So over here, what I'm probably going to do with this bit is move the Blechnum chilense, which we'll get to in a bit here, because that spreads via underground rhizome. This Hispalis thing is deciduous, so it might do something, but yeah, I might put it in there because it gets quite bushy, it'll get a bit of room to spread and it'll give it a bit of ground cover, so I'll probably move that over here. There's the Woodwardia radicans, which still isn't doing anything, so I am starting to worry a touch on that one, but I guess we'll leave it a few more weeks when the heat gets in properly and we'll see what happens. A couple more aspleniums there. At the back here we've got another Matichua Strophiopteryx which is going, Royal Fern which I just put in over there which is going, so I'll take that old Niphophia out, move the other Matichua over here, and the Lady Fern and the Royal Fern that were over by the Dixonias in here, so that'll free up some space over there to put one of the big ferns in. The Schefflera rhododendroflorea is not looking amazing. It looks like the caterpillars or whatnot like it, but I can see a couple of grow points that seem to be coming through, so we'll see how that does. Tetrapanax going quite well, seeing as how windy it's been. We've got another leaf coming up, there's another one about to come up there, so hopefully, because that's had such a hard life, it'd be quite a tough plant, that one, so we'll soon find out there, I guess. And huzzah, the Lophosauria has started growing. Really happy with that because they're not technically, they're not hardy, and it had burnt, all the frost had burnt everything off, so this one's going. We've got a big one coming up there, there's a couple of bigger fronds coming up as well, so I'm quite happy with that. So yeah, let's crack on over here a minute. I know I'm dragging it out a little bit, but you know, what can you do? So this is where I wish I would have bought two of the Asplenium trichomedes, because then I could put one in the wall here in full sun and one over there in shade and see which one does better. So what my plan is for this is to find a gap, probably this one here, dig out what I can from it that's in there, put a load of compost in there, and then just line it with a bit of lime mortar to kind of hold it in there, and shove the plant in there and see what happens. Up here, which is a very neglected bed, this Denostadia looks dead, but it is deciduous, so we'll give it a chance. The Ariostega pravipinata, or the rabbit foot fern, is starting to grow again. I need to chop off these old ferns, but you can see it's all sending up loads of fronds everywhere. You can see why they call it the rabbit's foot fern, because it's the rhizome stays above ground height and looks like a rabbit's foot. So over here, the Insecti's actually been out for 2-3 weeks now. It seems to be doing okay. It doesn't seem to have died, even though it's not been above 10 degrees at night, so quite happy with that. A bit worried about the ivy that I put in last year. I may take that out before it goes crazy and strangles everything. The sword fern, which was there or is there, isn't doing a lot. Again, another one I'll give it a bit of a chance, see what happens. I think we do actually have a casualty of the winter confirmed. There is, believe it or not, in there is a gingers. What are the, I remembered what it was a minute ago. What's the name of them? But effectively a ginger, Hedachium greenii was in there. It doesn't look like it's there anymore, so yeah, it's the one. Casualty number one. Another drop to its Wallichiana, which has sorted out this weird little frond, but it's not actually put this out, so I don't know whether this crown got frozen or not, but we will find out soon enough. The Erythrosaura, getting quite big now, this one. I need to chop off, got a load of new fronds coming out which will be red. You can see just the red gleam on the croziers, so I'll chop off some of these old ones in a bit. Another Atrata here, which looks fantastic when it's overwinning, but if we get to the next one, it's an absolute beauty. So yeah, just look at that one. I don't know what the common name is for these. I've heard it called a buckler fern or a shaggy wood fern. I think I'm going to rename that the Kraken fern, because if I was to superimpose a pirate ship in the middle of that, it wouldn't look not unlike a Kraken coming up. So yeah, it looks good, that one. I like sitting on that seat. Sorry, I like sitting on that seat in the evening because the light comes from behind it and it really shows it all up, so that's good. The Canna and Polypodium are doing all right. Here's the Blechnum chilense, which is doing good, but again, like I said, I might move that one over there. But this is a real tough real tough leathery fern that is. It's, yeah, almost like holly, but it's not called a holly fern. So in it, as we know, the Lanicera hildebrandiana giant Burmese honeysuckle is going to go in here. Like I said about the last video, I don't need to go into that. I'm also thinking about maybe putting a Lophosolia in there and a Cyathea in here, and some other ferns. So that Aphaenus pindarini, I'm thinking, because it's sort of upright, I might slap in where that is, and then that will sort of go out over, and because I need to provide protection for those 3 plants I just mentioned in the giant honeysuckle, put something down there behind the banana towards the fence, something in the corner, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So last things last is over here. I've had a bit of a genius idea again. This, well, I say I've had one. This camellia behind the statue a week ago wasn't looking too great, and we've got a bit of an unruly, I don't know if you'll see it, but there's an unruly monstera over there in the corner, and I'm thinking about taking some cuttings and trying to grow it there, because can you imagine how good that would look if you come out here? Obviously I'll get a decent fern for that empty spot, but if you come out here and look, you've got the camellia, the statue, and then climbing up there a monstera, because remember I can run my heating out to keep protect it in the winter, so I think that would look absolutely fantastic. That means I can put that camellia into that nice china pot there, and then pop that on that corner there, which will cover up a bit of that space. But other than that, these are doing all right. I thought the Australis was going to get blown out the other day because it was really looking like it was just going to completely go, but yeah, it seems to have stayed well. Bamboo, we got this shoot on the left but no others, which is a bit worrying, but I'm sure it'll send it up. I might need to chop a bit more down because it's all bent over now because of the wind we had. And yeah, just the another Erythrosaura, the Aphaenus there at the back, which has probably had the hardest life of any plant I've got, so I'm looking forward to that one coming out when it does. And another drop to its Lepipodoba there, which is a sort of red tinged one as well, so I guess we'll see when the new fronds come out about that one. So yeah, so really got to do the vertical garden there, got to cut the pot to do that, what I've done with that. And then with the climbers, what I'm going to do is go to the woman I got the giant honeysuckle off, who funnily enough is just not even 5 minutes up the road, and her words to me were, if you want a climber I can get you anything, or to that effect. So I'm going to put that to the test. I haven't seen a Hydrangea simanii, which is what I'm going to get in and around the Dixonia to sort of cover between the fat cedera and the Pilostagia in the corner. Got the 2 Pilostagias, Clematis armandii over where that pink pot is, the purple pot at the back to climb up over the waterfall and part of that fence. Giant honeysuckle there, monstera in the corner. That leaves me 2 pots here, one in, I'd call that part shade to part sun. That one's pretty much full sun, and I'll just say to the lady, give me the best you got basically, or something really, you know, quite interesting, just to see what she's got and what we can do. So yeah, it's all sort of springing into life, excuse the pun. But yeah, need to get the trellis sorted, which I'll do next time. Oh yeah, you can obviously see the bananas are starting to fire out. That's actually got 2 leaves coming out now. Another actually interesting thing, but this banana over here, which was the one that put the sausage out, it's grown a leaf, but it's also split the banana right the way down, and that one there, so I take it that is where I didn't chop it low enough. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, other than that, I have waffled on far too long as usual, so yeah, I will leave it there. Hopefully next time I do a video, the trellis will be done, the giant honeysuckle will be outside getting used to. I did have it outside for a day, and then the wind and rain and cold came, so I thought I'd better not risk it, because I would be absolutely wounded if I killed that. I still might kill it, but yeah, not for doing something stupid. So yeah, we'll see how we go. Anyway, hope you're all good. Enjoy the weekend.